up here, and no matter what we talk about today, okay, when you're done talking to me, then you'll be going back to wherever you need to go, okay? So I appreciate that. Now I know it's a little warm in here, so I apologize for that. It's just kind of an older building. There was just a couple things I wanted to kind of talk to you about, and I guess it's a little bit of it was. Remember when I talked to you the other day? I think it was like,
in your car?
Like 2 weeks ago, Thursday or something like that?
Yeah.
Or last week?
I remember.
I'm so old, I can't remember
I
stuff.
don't know when it was,
And I'd ask you about what you told Detective Maroney at the school that day. And then you were kind of telling me something a little bit different about where you spent the night at and who you were with and all that. And so I just want you to kind of listen to the two stories you gave, and we'll kind of work through that and see what the real story is, okay? So let's just listen to this here real quick, that way you can remember what you said. Now this is not my recorder, so I'm not sure. And just real quick, this isn't the whole interview, it's just the two segments that I'm concerned about where you told her you were that night and then where you told me you were that night. So it's not like the whole interview, so it's just going to be a minute or two long.
And were you home last night, I guess, when your parents were having the barbecue?
Yeah.
Everybody was there? Okay. And then what?
I was going to sleep, and so was he.
Okay. About what time was that?
I'm not sure. After we got done eating, we're out to the schools.
Yeah.
We were both going to sleep.
Okay. And does he change into pajamas, or does he sleep in his clothes?
It just depends.
Okay.
I take a shower at night.
Okay. So your mom, or Amanda, said that he took a shower last night. Do you remember if he took a shower or bath? Okay. And do you remember what he had on? Okay. Do you remember what those clothes were?
Jeans. I'm not sure what kind of shirt.
Okay. Do you know if he had shoes on? Okay. You know what kind of shoes?
Probably needed. They're all black.
Mm-hmm.
All black. I don't know what kind of.
Okay. And do you all have separate rooms? Okay. And did you ever see him go into his room?
Well, like I was sitting out in the shower. That's the last time I seen him, which was already after we ate the barbecue together.
Okay. So, but you know he changed back into his regular clothes, so you saw him between after he got out of the shower?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he say anything to you about? Okay.
Tell me about the night after everybody leaves. You said something about the shower. Kind of walk through that.
He said he was going in to take a shower.
Where were you at when you said that?
We were sitting on the back porch in the backyard because the cookout was just ending, and he said he was going to take a shower or something going in.
And was Mackenzie there then? Was she?
Oh yeah, she took a shower too that night.
No,
No, she. What?
were you in the house when he took the shower?
Because I came over here.
So as he tells you on the back porch, I'm going to go take a shower. Then you
He
get
said I'm going to go in here and take a shower and calm down for the night. And so I was going to come down here and just calm down for a little bit, watch movies, and ended up falling asleep down here.
Now Amanda, she's not working at McDonald's anymore, right?
No.
You know why she quit, what that was all about?
I guess she just said she didn't want to go back because it took too much brain. She didn't want to have to focus that much and be stuck.
Did an odd job where he was at or what he was doing?
You'd have to ask him about that.
Now, I guess my only concern is there's a little difference in your story today than when you told the detective over there at the gym, which was you told her that you were in the house when Trey was taking a shower. understand my concern with the story there, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I would think that your first story that you told Detective Maroney at the school is probably the true version of the events. Because Cassie says she doesn't remember if you stayed there or not that night.
John does.
No, John doesn't either.
Because he was passed out on the couch.
I'm just telling you. So, we need to work through what the truth really is, okay? Like I say, you're leaving here when you're done talking to me, or you can walk out right now, but, so we kind of need to get the truth. And there's a lot of other things I want to talk to you about. So, let's kind of work through this part at first. Tell me the truth about that night.
We were on the back porch. It was me, him, Dad and Amanda stayed on that porch the whole night, evidently, because we were on the back porch and he told me he was going to take a shower and calm down for the night. So I went to Cassie's. I planned on, I didn't know if I was going to sleep down there or sleep down at Amanda's, but I got comfortable down at Cassie's. Ended up watching a movie and falling asleep down there.
So why would you?
I guess the first day, it was a bad day.
Yeah, and I
you
understand
can understand that.
I can understand, but let me tell you this. I had a family member murdered before, and when I told the police back when I was like 11, I told them the truth the first time. I didn't have to tell them something that I know I was upset and I was scared and I was angry and I was all those things that everybody went through. But I still told the police when they asked me a question, I would tell them what happened. They didn't have to come back to me a week later or 2 weeks later or a month later, because what I told them was the truth. So when you start telling a couple different stories, it makes me wonder about your credibility or your truthfulness. And at this point, I believe the story you told her at the school that day is the true story. Because even Amanda said you were there
That night?
when he was taking a shower.
No, I wasn't. You can ask my dad.
I mean, but
You can ask.
the stories aren't even, well, your stories aren't even close. To, I wasn't there. I was down at Cassie's watching TV, getting comfortable. To, I was there. I saw him take a shower. We were going to go to bed. I saw him put his clothes back on, including his shoes.
But I got that story because my dad and Amanda told me that night he walked out the back door fully dressed head to toe and then walked back in and shut the door.
And of course, I think that's easy to say now. But when she clarified with you a couple of different times, so you saw him put his clothes back on? Yes. What kind of shoes did he put on? Some kind of black shoes.
So
It's not like my dad told me, or it's not like Amanda told me.
I mean, that's
or
the
her
only
from
kind
the
of shoes he
neighborhood,
had,
or
so that had to be the shoes he put back on.
Okay, but you see what I'm saying? That your story doesn't make any sense. And I don't want you to get jammed up in this murder case at all.
Had
Okay.
nothing to do with it.
And so that's kind of where we need to work through right now before we go on to some other things. I think you were in the house that night.
I was not.
I think you saw him take a shower. I think you saw him put his clothes back on, and I think him and your dad went back down to where this happened at.
No, sir.
And let me just show you my phone here real quick. See on my phone? A lot of people have these nowadays. It's got a voice recorder on it. And we can record, and I can talk and say, Chop, hello, how are you doing, Josh Young, and I can stop it, and I can save it, and then I can play it. I can talk and say, Chop, hello, how are you doing, Josh Young, see how that works? And you would never know if that was on my, you'd never know if this was sitting right here, would you? That I was recording our conversation. You would have no idea. So you have talked to a few people that were smart enough to do something similar to this, either with their phone or with a little digital recorder or something like that. And I know you've talked to a few people.
Just you and
I don't mean police-wise, I mean friends. Some of your friends you've talked to. And you've told your friends a few things, a little more in detail about maybe what happened to Trey. Yeah?
like what?
And I've got a text message from some of your friends that they were sending to their other friends, telling them what you had told them.
Well, I've told you the truth.
What have you told Connor?
That he was killed. Really haven't told her anything.
Who's some of your other close friends?
After that incident, nobody was really able to come back around.
Okay, but
Yes,
just because they don't come around after the murder, I mean, there's still people you knew or acquaintances with, or?
I was pretty cool with everybody on the street. Everybody was always down there. Cassie's, Amanda's.
What other female friends do you have or you associate with?
Not really any.
Who's Connor been arguing with on Facebook?
Sarah.
Have you talked to Sarah?
Not recently, no.
I mean, before the murder, a couple days after the murder.
Maybe.
Think about what I just showed you on my phone, or what we talked about, and I want you to tell me the truth about what you and Sarah may have talked about.
I can't remember if I've talked to Sarah or not after. I know I've talked to her before.
Right.
But
And what was y'all's conversations about Trey?
none. She didn't know anything about Trey that I knew of.
She knew Trey.
She did? I didn't know that. She never came around.
What other girls do you have that were friends of yours?
Not really any. Sarah's not even a friend. I don't talk to her anymore because Connor and her don't get along. So I haven't talked to her at all.
So why would there be other friends out there that have came to me, and I've interviewed more people in this case than probably any murder case that I've interviewed anybody on, even the Little Ivan Kano case.
I don't know if
Why would some of your friends, male or female, come to me and say that you and your dad were talking about how you all would kill people before Trey was murdered, and that Trey was murdered in a similar fashion how you described how you and your dad would do it?
I have no idea.
So why would they lie about that?
Grudges? I don't know. I get along with everybody.
So if I had a grudge with,
So nobody would really have a reason to lie.
like to say that CPS worker Bridget, say I had a grudge with her.
Well, I would Bridget.
Yeah, that's just one, you know. So if I had a grudge with her for any reason, some kind of work issue, you think I would go around saying,
I mean, that'd
Bridget
be
told
a
me-
horrible thing. I know what
Bridget
you're
told
gonna say.
me that her and her mom were going to talk about how they were going to kill somebody.
I know what you're going to
And then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a horrible
That's-
thing. Maybe for credit.
It'd be
Maybe
something
to be-
different on a grudge. You could be like, you know,
Maybe to be noticed. I don't know.
were you talking about stuff like that maybe to be noticed?
No. I never once talked about killing anybody. And I never heard my dad talking about killing anybody. And my dad liked Trey, and so did I.
Okay, let's talk about the ride down. Why did y'all go to Alabama? What was the reason to pick Alabama?
We were just passing through Alabama.
What made you all even leave? The girl that was with you, who's she?
Just a friend.
Had you met her before?
Huh?
Had you
Yeah.
met her before?
Yeah, no.
I mean, because obviously your dad is on parole, so he's not allowed to even leave this county. And I know a few weeks ago y'all went to Michigan, and then y'all went to Alabama. So what was the conversation in the car and going down to Alabama? When y'all driving in the car, what was some of the conversation y'all had?
Can't even remember.
And I'm specifically talking about just the incident with Trey.
I don't even know if we talked to Trey about Trey on the way to Alabama.
And you all talked about it because she did the same thing. She knew that your dad might be a little. She's not sure if she could trust him all the way, so she recorded some of y'all's conversations.
I don't believe that because we didn't talk about Trey on the way to Alabama.
So why would I hear on the recording that you all were talking about, you specifically talking about, you were kicking Trey in the head?
I don't know. That didn't happen. I never have said that in my life.
Okay, so your friends that say you are talking about killing people a couple weeks before the murder, and Trey dies similarly, and this girl driving to Alabama, she's lying. So everybody's just lying.
That's not true at all.
So they're all just liars.
I don't know what they are. They aren't telling the truth, so it must make them liars.
Have you had chance to think about? Obviously, I mean, your life was pretty good while your dad was in prison. You got to admit, you had a much better situation.
I mean, I love my dad more than anybody in this world, and I'd rather be with him than anybody in this world. So my life was much better with my dad.
So your life was better getting arrested in Alabama?
Being with my dad, it's all worth it.
Really? So you would rather not be in a secure home, having a secure
If
school,
I'm with my dad,
having a decent family, having Trey as your friend, now he gets out of jail, or he gets out of prison, and Amanda quits her job, he goes to jail, Trey gets murdered. I mean, all that stuff's better? That's better to you?
Of course not. I said being with my dad is better than being anywhere else.
But
And-
you've been with your dad for, he's been out for what, 7 months, something like that?
It's about that.
And you've already been arrested in Alabama for a gun charge? That's better? I'm
Nothing.
confused by that statement.
That had nothing to do with it.
Because, well, obviously you did, because they, at least you didn't let the charges get dismissed.
So that was just accidental arrest. They had no reason to arrest me.
Well, there was a gun in the room, and nobody had a permit to have it, so that's their city ordinance, so it's not an accidental arrest. I mean,
Well, I mean, they could. I don't mess with no guns. I'm 15. Do I look like having a gun?
well, and you don't think I've arrested 15-year-olds for carrying guns before?
I'm sure you have.
Okay, so then,
I mean,
but, I mean, that just doesn't make sense, but,
it does to me.
so, I mean, there's just a lot of inconsistencies in your story, and that's what I'm concerned about. Either
I
with
have
how
not-
you saw him, or when you didn't see him, or you talked about killing people, and then you didn't talk about killing people, you talked
Never
about
talked about
kicking
killing
him in the
anybody.
head, and then you didn't talk about kicking him, I mean, it just seems
Kicking
like
him in the head?
everybody's, yeah, I just said that about 5 minutes
Yeah,
ago.
that's
It seems like everybody's telling me stuff, and to you, everything's like, no, nothing happened, they're liars, I don't know what you're talking about.
I've never said anything like that. Neither is my dad or anybody.
Do you know much about, I'm sure you probably watch like the CSIs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I like Law and Order, but CSI's alright.
A little more cheesy, isn't it?
It's alright.
And then, how well do you know the girl in Michigan? Nikki.
Nikki. No, I mean, we started talking on Facebook while my dad was in prison, but
How old is she?
how old is she?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, is she like 20 or is she like 40 or 10?
I guess around my dad's age.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not sure.
What was the situation there with him and her?
They were arguing over her talking to somebody or something. I don't know.
Were you there, I guess, when he supposedly put a knife to her throat and all that?
Mm-mm.
Where were you at when that happened, supposedly?
I didn't know that happened at all. So I can't answer that question.
Well, I mean, did he ever go up there recently without you? I know you all went once.
No.
And then how did you all get up to Michigan?
This last time?
Yeah.
My sister's mom.
Which sister?
Sister in Michigan.
Okay.
I had
She
a-
drove all the way down here to get you?
Well, she stayed down there a little bit too, for a day.
Oh, okay. How'd y'all get to Alabama?
I don't feel comfortable answering that question.
How'd you
Here
get to
about
Alabama?
Trey. Yeah. I mean, I want to
Did
talk
y'all
about
hitchhike or did you take a plane or that's all I'm asking? Did you take a train?
No. We drove.
Did that girl have a car?
Uh-uh.
So what's the deal with that lady down there?
I don't want to talk. I ain't in that. I don't feel comfortable talking about that. I had nothing to do with anything about that, so I don't feel the need to talk about it.
Okay, going back to the forensic stuff. Some people said that your dad, and I have phone records to verify it, said that your dad talked to somebody, and I'm not going to tell you who, at about 9:37 on that Tuesday night y'all had the cookout. And he said that he was with you, and your dad said that he was with Trey, and y'all were all smoking weed. I'm not worried about it if you are, because I ain't about the police, so I don't care about that. I'm just got to tell you what the story is so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And this was at 9:37. And the toxicology results for Trey after the autopsy was he had marijuana in his urine, but not in his blood, which means it was in the system just quickly enough to get in his urine
If he
before he was killed.
no, he smokes weed just as much as anybody else. If he has weed in his system, it's in his blood.
It's not in his blood. I'm
It's
telling you, it's not
an
in his blood.
everyday thing.
It's in his urine only. It did not show up in his blood.
Well, he was at his dad's previously before that on ground.
So if your dad is saying he's with you and Trey smoking weed
I
at
don't believe
9:37.
he said that.
Okay, well he did. At 9:37, and I plus have phone records to verify the person's story that told me this. And so at 9:37, he's saying he's with you and Trey smoking weed, and then Trey doesn't have enough weed in his system to get into his blood, which means he was murdered pretty fast after that phone call.
I was at Cassie's.
But you weren't at Cassie's.
I was.
No.
with John. John was on the couch. He was waking up, nodding back off.
You may have been there at some point, but you weren't there. You were there maybe after Josh took a shower, or Trey took a shower, and Trey got dressed, and Trey tried to leave, and Trey put his shoes back on. Because I know you saw all that. Okay, so if your story is you didn't see him take a shower, you all weren't getting ready to go to bed, you didn't see him put his shoes back on or his clothes back on, then how can I believe anything else you tell me during this whole entire interview? Because you clearly said it. I mean, I can play it again if you want to hear it. I can play it again.
I heard everything on the CD.
I mean, I can play it again.
You don't have to trust me. I mean, you don't know me.
I mean, if you're lying about that, then how do I know you're telling me the truth about anything else?
That's just a chance you have to take. There ain't really any way.
Have you talked to Amanda or seen Amanda?
Mm-mm.
And then I guess Connor came and visited you yesterday or day before or something?
Yesterday, day before.
How'd that go? What was that conversation about?
Nothing about Trey or anything that's going on legal-wise. Me, her, and her mom played a board game. Just hung out for a little bit. We didn't get the full visit because her grandma brought her down and her grandma wasn't on the list. She couldn't stay alone, so she had to, I guess, go back home and get her mom to bring her. So it was a short visit, period.
I mean, but you see how all the information I'm getting from a lot of different people, from phone records, from autopsy reports.
I can tell you, I've never once talked about killing anybody, kicking Trey in the head. Me, Trey, and my dad were not smoking weed at 9:37. That's all false.
I mean, you see why I would have to come back and talk to you about that.
I
Because
would
everybody's
talk to
coming to
somebody about that. If I had your job, I'd be doing the same thing, and I understand why you're doing it, but I had nothing to do with it, and I'm pretty sure my dad doesn't either. My dad was with Amanda. She stated that the whole night. Why would she try to change it? Is she trying to change that now?
Well, I'm not going to tell you who's changing what or who's talking about what. That's part of the investigation. So have you had time to think about what might have happened down there that night?
I mean, it's just blank in my head. Everybody's thought about it. I don't know what could have possibly happened.
My feeling is you know more than what you're telling me.
That's not true.
And my feeling is, did you know your dad tried to call me twice yesterday?
Mm-mm.
And that he called me when y'all got locked up to let me know y'all got locked up?
I didn't know anything, but I haven't talked to my dad since we got locked up, so no.
I mean, you want to find the person responsible for this, right?
Well, of course. What kind of question is that? Yeah, I do.
Well, that's the question I'm asking. That's the kind
As
of
much
question.
of anybody else, yes.
So your honesty is important in this investigation.
I understand that, and I've told you I have nothing to do with it. Neither does my dad. That's why are you harassing us and the close family instead of really trying to figure out?
No.
I've heard
So
people
you
say
know,
that.
so you know what I've done in my investigation.
I mean, you've been harassing my dad, so is everybody else.
How have I harassed your dad? Your
I mean,
dad
you
calls
can't-
me like 20 times a day.
I mean,
So,
constantly.
wait. You're going to sit there with your hat cocked sideways, with your red that your dad likes to wear and all that stuff, and your red shorts
my
hanging down,
favorite
your underwear
color.
sticking out. But then you're going to tell me things that you have no idea about.
Well, I just don't.
I have not harassed your dad.
I feel
Your
like
dad
it's-
called me 10 times a day. Your dad's called me twice since he's been locked up in Alabama. He's called me twice, so I'm harassing your dad. So you're just you can sit there and say stuff that you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I feel
Who
like
else have I
it's-
interviewed in this case?
I have no idea.
So then you don't know who else I've
Me and
interviewed in
my
this
dad.
case. You don't know who I've interviewed in this case.
I'm talking about me and my father.
Right, but you said I need to be doing stuff to find out who really did it. But you don't know what I
Instead
did.
of interviewing
So to
me,
sit there and just run your
Dad,
mouth is pretty
Amanda.
inappropriate.
well, I'm sorry for
You
being
should be sorry.
inappropriate, but I didn't mean it that way. I just meant
Well, how do you mean it when I say you
I
say
think
I'm
it's an
harassing you?
inconvenience that you're interviewing me right now and I don't know anything.
Okay, but you just said 10 minutes ago that if you had my job, you would ask you the same questions.
Yeah, but not keep on going and saying that you think I know more than I'm saying, which I don't. I think that's harassment. That's calling me a liar. And
Well, I think I can play it again if you want to hear your statement.
I told you I was.
Which to me, you're a liar.
Well, I'm sorry if you think that, sir.
I mean, your own word. It's your own words. You can't take back your own words. Your own words where you saw him you knew he was taking a shower. You all were going to go to bed. You never once told Detective Maroney that you were going to go down and stay at Cassie's house. You told her you all were preparing to go to bed, and that he took a shower. You watched him put his clothes back on. You watched him put his shoes back on. Those are your own words, not my words, not her words. You can't take back your words. Those are on tape.
Yeah, but I've told you the story.
And that's, I believe what it is, just a story.
It's the truth.
Okay, so then it must be the truth that you saw him put his clothes back on and take a shower.
Now, I knew he put his clothes back on and his shoes back on, and they must have been the black shoes because the only shoes he wore.
But that's not what you told her.
Well,
It wasn't because you heard
I was
that.
in shock that day. I was. Along with everybody else.
Do you have any questions of me?
Do you know anything about my dad? What's going on with him right now?
Mm-hmm.
Me neither. That's pretty much it.
So let me ask you this, if it came down to your dad saying he had an involvement or your dad saying you had an involvement, which choice you think he'd pick?
It's neither.
You think he would go to prison for it?
He's innocent, and so am I. There's no reason either one of us should be going to prison.
Well, I mean, I hope you're telling me the truth, because I mean, obviously some of the things I know you're not telling me the truth on. For things I've heard with my own ears on the recordings and things I've heard you say with your own words.
Okay.
I know it's not the truth. And that's why I'm giving you this last opportunity to tell me the truth.
I've told you the truth. And I would like to go now. I'm starting to feel uncomfortable with this whole thing.
Can you sit here long enough for me to get your worker to come back up here?
Yeah.
I'll have him walk up, and that way he can walk up with you.
So woman.
No, the guy that you were here with.
Ah, thought you meant my social worker, Allison.
She may be here, I'll have to go check. I'm just gonna